The energy sector in India, so far dominated by oil and gas and power utilities, is now at the cusp of a green revolution. India has made five key commitments at the Conference of Parties, which is the leading global summit on climate change, which include net zero by 2070, to cut overall carbon intensity by 45% by 2030, to meet 50% energy needs from renewables, to augment non-fossil capacity to 500 gigawatts by 2030, and to cut total carbon emissions by a billion tons from now until 2030. And, geographically, we are naturally predisposed as well to solar, wind, and hydropower generation. And of course, India already has capabilities in oil and gas as well as traditional power and utilities. So this is a troika that investors will do well to understand. So joining me is Vincent Mortier, Deputy CEO of Amundi Asset Management and Group Chief Investment Officer at Amundi. Vincent, thanks very much for joining in.
Hello.
To begin with, can you give us some perspective on the global energy landscape and what are the kind of changes that are underway there?
Yes, sure. Thank you very much for asking. So energy in our life is as vital as the air we breathe or the water we drink. And the world has been lucky in the past to have, for a very long time, a cheap and ample energy supply. But it has been more and more at the expense of the planet. And we now collectively see the impact of climate changes everywhere. And so as a result, some dramatic changes are needed to make a transition towards new forms of energy. It is the only way to avoid future costs and in terms of dollars, of course, but also and more importantly, in terms of human lives.
In India, and of course, in Europe, because Europe is a leader in, new energy, etc. We're hearing so much now about energy transition, right? Is it something which is just good to hear, but there is not so much action that we are seeing in the real world? Or is it, a more durable, investable, and bankable theme?
Yes, indeed, since a few years now, we see more and more things moving on. And collectively in the world, today we assess that 4.5 trillion of US dollars are spent every year on energy transition. So that is a big and serious money. And projects in energy transitions are more and more profitable because they cost less money to implement. And as there is a big demand for energy supply, energy prices has been pretty high. So as a result, energy transition projects are bankable, as you said. That's very important, and it is more and more structural in its nature. And worth mentioning as well, we see more and more innovation in this space and innovative companies. So you've got, for example, the hydrogen sector, which is very promising. You've got some new technology on solar panels. And of course, we can also mention the nuclear fusion technology, which is still early. But if it happens, it can be a game changer in terms of supply of very cheap energy, sustainable and good for the planet.
So there's a lot of promise ahead. Yes. So now, where we began, which is India. You've, of course, traveled to India also very recently. So what is your impression on how India is placed in the global energy landscape?
So India is indeed catching up a lot. It's probably one of the most dynamic countries in the energy transition space with China, actually. And they are the two biggest contributors to new projects today. I have been pretty impressed, I would say, when I was a few days ago in Mumbai, to see the targets and the ambitions which has been set by the country. For example, to achieve half of the energy supply coming from renewable energy by 2030. So not that long from now. So half is quite a lot. I also noticed that India intends to produce by 2030 5 million tons of hydrogen, so which is very sizable. And more generally speaking, it's quite telling to see India investing into also innovation and innovative space. And as a result, there will be also many green jobs created in India, which will be very good for the country at large. So it's in a way a kind of win-win combination, which will be good for the country in terms of independence, energy independence, as well job creation, and also good for the climate. And of course, climate change is affecting everybody, but India in particular, I know, has been under pressure. So overall, the strategy followed by the Indian authorities and the Indian corporates has been, I would say, very good. And we can see changes happening. So I'm very optimistic about the prospects, in particular for India.
Yeah, and Vincent, diamonds are created under immense pressure. So we may be late to the party, but hopefully we will power through and shine on.
Yes,
Thank
absolutely.
you very much, Vincent, for giving us your take on this whole energy piece.
You're welcome.
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.